Hey, good evening here from the States, and good morning to Darren over in Australia for another edition of
Good morning.
Horror Pop After Midnight. So, how's it going, Darren?
Yeah, buddy, very good. Very, especially now I've got coffee coming into my system. I'm going to be even better.
Oh, that's good. So, how's it over there down under?
Well, personally, professionally, very busy. It's weather-wise, it's been a little bit all over the place. We're getting I think it's La Nina. I think that it is. That's when it's wet. La Nina is when it's wet, or when it's had too much to drink. I said that. Sorry. I'll go back to having a coffee.
All right, yeah, drink your coffee because it's early morning over there for you. I was over at Horrorhound weekend this past weekend. Went to the Horrorhound Film Festival, and I finally saw your film, The Lonely Road. Yes, The Lonely Road. I really enjoyed. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The thing I liked about the film was you added the black-eyed children. I love stuff about the black-eyed children. I've read like stories and everything, or people eyewitnessing to black-eyed children, and I did a podcast episode about the black-eyed children.
Oh, brilliant! I will have to scroll through and find that podcast and listen to it, because I was reading about the black-eyed children at the time, and in particular, I read one encounter that this fellow had where he was paying bills, and he turned up to the post office, I believe, and it was past the hours, and he was writing out some checks, and this child just appeared at his window and was asking to be let in the car constantly. And it wasn't until he turned and looked and just was going, okay, there's something very wrong with this child. And I just went, okay, well, that's actually a nice way to segue into introducing my main character in Lonely Road, which is Phoebe, which will be in the feature film that comes off this. And I thought, well, this would be a great way to introduce this character, introduce some of the world of the supernatural that she chases. And I started reading more and more about the black-eyed child lore. And I just went, okay, this is going to be a perfect way to introduce. They're a wonderfully creepy part of urban legends right now and urban lore. And to be able to play with that, and I had a tremendous makeup artist who did a great job with all the dark veins and everything like that. And the kids had a lot of fun putting in the saber-tooth contact lenses, because I was determined that I wasn't going to do that in post. I wanted to have as much as what I could on screen and visual. Of course, for people who've watched it, you'll see a part where one of the black-eyed kids does a bit with a claw and rips into the front of Phoebe's car. That I had to do in post. I couldn't exactly get the kid to go, okay, now get some claws and make some sparks, kid. Make some sparks. Spark up the car. Yes. Mate, absolutely loved. I'm a big sucker, and I love anything to do with paranormal and supernatural. I'm a massive fan of that. I truly am.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And the actress in it, let's see if I can pronounce her name right. Gianna, right?
Gianna, yes.
Gianna.
Yes, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she was very fantastic in it. She could be like a, how she, carried herself. She could be like a, potential like scream queen if she ever, did any like type of paranormal or horror films. And her performance was like really good. And the story starts off, she's on her way to the Vinegar house to, investigate some paranormal, which is, of course, the black-eyed children. So she goes and stops and sees her cousin, and her cousin gets like real worried about her, saying, hey, you don't need to do this. You don't really need to keep on going. But she keeps on saying, I got to. And I like how they like swapped those best friend necklaces. And the thing that kind of got me a little bit was when she, finally left her cousin's house. You find her part of her necklace laying on the floor by the door.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on that. It's a really nice bit of planting, seeding, and foreshadowing that something's potentially going to be really wrong. That this brand new necklace that she's got that connects and ties her to her cousin, it's broken off itself. And as Leanne, who's the cousin, is the psychic one in the family, as she says, and also she foreshadows the whole thing of saying, Phoebe, you're always doing this ghost hunting, and she goes, no, it's paranormal investigations, and she's like, you call it what you will, you've always been hunting. And again, that's the foreshadowing of saying, careful of what you're hunting, because they may end up hunting you in return. And that's what we see when she comes in contact with the black-eyed children. They're then hunting her. And there's, again, a little bit of planting of the ideas, but I'll expand further in the feature film Vinegar Hill, which is what Lonely Road is the prequel for. Where the black-eyed kids are saying, the collector wants to meet you, and that's planting an idea. That's a story I read once about a paranormal entity called the Collector, which gathers souls for something that's a little bit more powerful. And I thought, wow, I read that once, and I thought, that is actually a really creepy idea, that there is another paranormal entity that is gathering souls for something else that's even more disturbing and evil than itself. And I'm like, okay, I have to plant this. I really need to get this happening in here. Yes.
And that's pretty good. And
Yes,
then when she finally, gets into the parking garage to her car, she bumps, of course she bumps into one of them again. And then you added that little metaphor in it where one of them was holding her necklace, or half the necklace, which I caught on. I was sitting going, where is he going with this? Since she's being hunted down by him, and her sister warned her. And then, of course, the part where you see the kid just scratch her car door, and then she like zips off, and you see her going to the road. So the thing I was thinking that towards the end is, was she actually really going to the road towards Vinegar House? Or
very much so.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Or unless she was going in like a different direction. That's what I got from it towards the ending of the film.
Yeah, she's not going to change in what she's doing. She's very determined, and despite the fact that this creature has the necklace at the end, she's taken it. He's taken it, and she may be going away. She may have got away from them, but they've still got a connection to her in that necklace. And she's not seen the last of them yet, that kind of thing. She's not seen the last of paranormal entities chasing after her. I'm glad you liked that shot at the end as well. That was, I remember when I was setting that one up, and my director of photography, when I explained to her what the shot was going to be, she looks at me and she goes, I hate you. I really hate you. That's a difficult shot. I hate you. And I said, but it'll look good. It really will. It'll be brilliant. And she's like, yeah, I hate you.
Well, the shot was phenomenal. Whatever cinematographer you had, he nailed that perfectly. Where you see the car and her, going, down that lonely road. I just thought it was just a beautiful shot. How you ended it. I like how that shot was added into that.
Thank you. It was when I wrote that piece. It's one of those moments where, as a filmmaker, you have a specific idea as to how it's going to look. And when we pulled that one off on the night when we shot it, and I was looking at it on the playback, and I just went, I think this is, I'm in love with this shot, because I think this is exactly how I imagine it. And when we finally, I was looking at it in the edit suite, and I was like, oh yeah, Yeah, it's one of those magical moments where what you had in your mind when you wrote the script, it came off exactly as how I imagined it to be. Thank you so much. I put a lot of time into just that little shot in particular. It was a lot of time, a lot of effort. Because from people who are filmmakers themselves will understand that, you know, we started on as you remember with that shot, we started on the tire of the car.
Yeah. And
we started pulling back. The car takes off, and the camera itself is tracking back on a jib.
Yeah.
So our DP had to not only track it back, but also then focuses and jibs up towards the hand holding the pendant, and then had to, you know, drift back up and find that middle ground. So we had the kids on either side, and we had the car driving off in the middle to focus then on them, and then to pull back as one of our black-eyed children turns around and does that big scream to camera.
That was brilliant.
Thank you.
When that came up like that, that really got me because I didn't see that coming. I was like, "Whoa!" You know, it felt like it was going to come right out of the screen after me.
Thank you.
Your film got a good applaud at the film festival. I know you weren't able to make it to the States to, you know, Horrorhound. Horrorhound's a great horror convention here in the States. You know, they show some great films at their film festivals. But yeah, there was a lot of people. I sat in there watching your short film, and there was a lot of people that really enjoyed it and liked it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. It's as a film, it's done very well worldwide. Which, you know, I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, you know, Darren, that's huge. Congratulations to you." And look, I'm only as good as the film itself can only be as good as the people that I get around it. You know, not only just, you know, my director of photography, not only my makeup people, not only my the actors that I have involved, but every single person that contributed on that film. It's only as good as the people that are on there and doing all sorts of. It doesn't matter whether it was a production assistant or director or whatever. We're only as good as what we are as a team, and that's been one of the things I've been proud of the most, is the fact that, you know, everyone's contributed to it, and it's, as I said, it's done tremendously. The Horrorhounds screening made it number 80 as far as a festival screening has gone, which is pretty good. From we've had was 113, 114 festival entries, and 80 of them have taken it, which is a pretty dang good strike rate. And I'm up to 49 awards and nominations for awards from those 80 screenings. So it's a nice thing to have peer recognition as well as festival recognition as well. It's a good indicator that for the feature film that we're going to be doing past this, that we're on the right track with that. So it's a long time in development, as most feature films are. You know, the main script of Vinegar Hill, which runs off Lonely Road, it's about its 8th or 9th version of draft. So I've been writing and developing it for a while, so I want to make sure this is good. But no, thank you for telling me the feedback as well. It's a really lovely thing to hear, and it's humbling as well. It truly is.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And so how did you approach Gianna to be part of this film?
I'd known Gianna for a little while, just a little bit on the periphery, as it were. Here in Australia, her claim to fame came a few years beforehand, actually, as being a part of Big Brother, strangely enough.
Really?
She was a contestant on Big Brother, but she was evicted, I think, in the first. I think it might have been it was within the first few rounds. I think it might have been round 3 of evictions, but it was many, many, many years ago. And a friend of mine had put together a low budget feature film, and he had Gianna in it. And I saw some clips of Gianna's acting, and I thought, well, okay, that's good. Well, she's not someone who's just a Big Brother, contestant, and because everyone who's on reality TV shows unfortunately gets stuck with that stigma of, oh, you're a reality TV person, and that's sadly the stigma they get stuck with, and often they're far more than just that. And I saw what she was capable of, and I thought, well, look, I want to sit down and meet this person and see who she is outside of that. And we met at a cafe, had a lovely long chat, and she's someone who's not just that. She's not just that reality TV person. She was. I was very impressed with the attitude that she had post her Big Brother era. She wasn't someone who, would go to the opening of an envelope, as it were, as sometimes people are said. She was still working, part-time job, while trying to progress her acting career along. We sat down, we spoke about a couple of the different roles that I had coming up. And what also impressed me about her was that she didn't want to just talk about her character. She wanted to talk about the rest of the story itself, things that weren't just about her character. In particular, when we were talking about the story that would come after this in Vinegar Hill. And she's a character that's in that, but she was interested in how the other characters progressed and developed and what the rest of the story was about. And I thought, well, that's something that I really want to work with as an actor in stories that I'm trying to tell, as people who are not just focused upon themselves, but have a really, if I can use the word, holistic view as to a story as well. So that's the long story of how I came to meet Gianna. I'll warn everyone, including yourself, Robin, that I can talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles, so I can talk a lot.
Oh, I can tell. And I thought I was worse talking. Hey, you're fun to talk to. You're a fun interview. That's all I have to say. So, since you're going to be doing Vinegar Hill, man, you have my attention. I definitely want to see this one once you finally get it in production, greenlit, finally, get it out there. So we'll be seeing her psychic cousin in the upcoming film as well.
Yes, you will indeed. When I originally wrote Vinegar Hill, that character didn't exist, and I wrote Lonely Road as a way to introduce people to the world of Vinegar Hill. I wrote it not only as a prequel, but I was using it I had been using it as a promotional tool, very much as like a proof of concept style of film as well. And I was showing other people's proof of concept pieces, and one of the things I was noticing that a lot of people, when they were doing proof of concept films, were very much like just a collection of really nice looking shots, but they didn't tell a self-contained story. And I thought, well, look, I want to do something that is a self-contained story in itself, has a bit of an open end, so people can wonder, okay, there's got to be more to this. I really want to find out more. But I also wanted to try to show people a little bit about the world, showcase a little bit about the mood and the style and some of the characters, introducing to the world. And when I finished with Lonely Road, I'd worked with, now the actress who played the cousin Leanne, I'd worked with her a couple of times actually as an actor. So I always knew the quality of person that Mel, who played Leanne, I always knew the quality of Mel's acting. I'll tell a little funny side story onto that with acting with Mel. And so when I wrote the story and Mel did the character of Leanne, I thought, I can't let this character just sit and just exist in this prequel. I've got to bring her in. So one of the drafts I did when I rewrote it, I brought the character of Leanne back into the story. So she now exists in Vinegar Hill. Doesn't have a large part, but when the character of Phoebe joins the group of people in the house, Leanne, her psychic cousin, comes along to help her out, and she very much starts to have visions of the problems that can be in this house that they're going to be living in Vinegar Hill. And in fact, one of the first times we actually get to see the character of the Collector is through Leanne's eyes. And I like the fact that she gets to see it all herself as well. And she's the very first time that we see the evil that's within this place. Funny side story with Mel, as I was sort of alluding to before. We'd worked on a piece over here, which was it was a single episode of a thing called The Valley Killer, where I played actually the Valley Killer himself. Deadly Minds, I think, was the name of the TV show. It was one of these crime recreation drama pieces, and Mel was my first victim in the film. So she was the first person that my character killed. Now, jump forward to 6 months later, I was working on another piece, and Mel comes onto set, and we're looking at one another, just going, "I know you from somewhere. I know you." I'm just, and both of us on the first day of shooting, we were racking our brains as to where we knew one another. We both turn up on the second day filming, going, I know who you are now. I know who you are. And Mel's going, oh my God, you killed me on the last thing we did. I went, yes, you were my first victim. And she was like, oh, you were so gentle when you killed me. You were so beautiful when you were bashing me to death. And you were the first victim. And the crew was sitting there going, actors, man, you people are weird. But yeah, there's my long segue side story into talking about Mel. And yeah, she's a absolutely wonderful actress who doesn't see just how good she really is. And that's like in Lonely Road, her character was the secondary character.
Yeah.
In there. And she owned it. She owned those parts that she was in. She was mind-blowingly good. And she doesn't see herself as a tremendous actor. And I was like, Mel, you're amazing. You're brilliant. I've got a film I'm directing next year, which is a fantastic. It's a great little psychological drama. It's not a horror film per se, but it's a wonderful film. Set in small town country Australia. We don't do anything that's stereotypical of what you think of the stereotype of a small country town. Our lead character, she's a country cop who's suffering from PTSD. Mm-hmm. She's dealing with the boys' club. She's also dealing with prejudices because she's gay, and she's having to deal with that side of it as well. And I've got Mel playing one of the characters in that. I've also got Gianna playing one of the characters in that as well. They're not playing the lead because just for the point of view of what the character's age is, and where my other producer would want to be the characters themselves. But I've made sure I've got both of those actors in my next film as well. So that's happening next year, and fingers crossed. It's fingers. I didn't make the rude sign or anything like that. When I went like that, if people are thinking, did he just give us the double bird? No, I went like that. It was very quick, but I went like that. So fingers crossed. Vinegar Hill, or one of my other pieces, The Artifact, will be the one I do next. But yeah, sorry guys, I've hijacked Robin's piece again and go on talking off on another tangent. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's okay. That's what I like about my podcast. I like to get to the main point, and then if there's something fun, like a fun story or something like that, I like to mix it up. I like to make my guests, feel comfortable and having fun. My podcast is one of those ones where we're sitting on the back porch, with a couple brews. She's, just shooting the shit, That's how I love to do my interviewing, and I love, how you brought Vinegar Hill since The Lonely Road was a prequel, so now everybody knows. It's like, okay, I just saw this short film. Now I know there's going to be another film coming. So, what does horror mean to you? What's your definition of horror?
Something that elicits a strong reaction, and if you have a reaction of apprehension, and you can have that, it's that intangible feeling that is something that's almost primal, and there's a level of fear that's just sprinkled in. And if you're getting that feeling coming out in you when you're watching, when you're being absorbed, in the case of what we had with Horrorhound with the films, that were a part of the convention and the festival. If you're feeling that, you're getting that, then I consider that you've hit the mark with horror. Now, as you know, as we know, horror has many different flavors. Mm-hmm. You can have something that's more of a psychological horror. You can have something that's paranormal, supernatural, something that's straight out gore and in your face, like the splatter type of things. And that's one of the things I love about the horror genre is that, yeah, we have so many different flavors that exist within the horror genre. It's not just one thing. But I do tend to feel that if it elicits that bit of that primal feeling within us, and it's almost that primal afraid of the dark, like when we're suddenly in a darkened room, and there's sometimes that little thing that we have as human beings that strikes back to something that's centuries, eons old, that we think, and we have this thing inside of us that goes, I can't see everything here, and I'm a little bit afraid of what might be, even though there may not be anything within the room where we are, but we have that little bit of that feeling inside of us that there could be something there. If we elicit that, we've hit the mark with horror. And to me, that's what horror is. It's that intangible, that little intangible thing. What about yourself, Robin? Actually, I'm actually curious to know how you feel with horror is.
Oh, I just love horror. I love I like it. Like, I agree with you. Horror has like the different flavors. I like a good horror film that has a great score, and it's not bloody. I like more of the psychological, where it plays with your mind, where you get invested with the character in the whole film. Yeah. And it keeps you guessing, and I love how they use music in the films as like a secondary character, because that music gets into you, and by doing that, you feel, and you're like looking through the eyes of the actor or actress, film what they're feeling, what they're going through. Don't get me wrong, I love some bloody, messed up, sick films. I have to thank Joe Bob Briggs for that. Some of the films I've watched he shared, on drive-in theater, it kind of makes me a sick individual.
Well, ding dong, I'm in that bus with you. Sorry, I'm right there. So I don't mind watching those two, so...
So, and now let's talk about the black-eyed children. This has always fascinated me, man. And I, like I said before on the podcast, that the black-eyed children always interested me. I mean, like I said, I've read everything about them. There's really not that many films about them either. I mean, there's a few here and there. So, if you were cruising home like late one night or doing something, and you got out, and what would you do if you really had a real black-eyed children sighting? What would you be thinking, and what would you be doing right now when they come up and says, "Here, let us come in, help us"?
Well, I think the first thing that would happen would possibly be a brown trouser moment. It probably scared the right out of me in all sorts of ways. There's a part of me that would actually be fascinated to see how far the moment could go, though. And the reason why I'm going to say this is I've had the pleasure of co-hosting a couple of paranormal tours here in Australia.
Okay.
The quarantine station here in Sydney, which I know this is possibly me plugging the quarantine station for anyone who visits us, Sydney, Australia.
Okay.
But the quarantine station is one of our most haunted venues, and I've had the honour of leading the private tours there on a couple of occasions, which are known as the Ghost Hunter experience. And when we've had some unusual experiences, I've wanted to stay and I've wanted to find more about what's going on. I haven't had the I'm going to run away instinct.
Yeah.
So I think my first thing that I'd be thinking about if I was having a black-eyed child experience was I want to stay in the experience as long as what I can. And hopefully not stay in it for so long that, and again, this is from some of the readings of some of the experiences that I've read about, where some people find themselves almost in a trance-like state, where I read of a couple of experiences where people said they found themselves almost reaching towards the door and the handle when the children appeared at the door. Others have felt themselves almost reaching towards, opening up the locks on the car to let them in. I would hope that I'd be able to get to that point where I'm in that trance-like state where I'm about to let them in. Because we've never heard of anyone talking about to my research anyway, I haven't read of anyone's experience of saying, well, I let them in and then this happened afterwards. For all we know, they let them in and they go, this week the Powerball numbers are. We've been trying to tell everyone what the Powerball numbers are, but nobody will listen to us and nobody will let us in. Heaven knows they may be doing that. I don't think so, though. Strangely enough, I don't think so. But, yeah, I'm hoping that I'd be able to find as much knowledge as what I could from that experience. I think, yeah, I'd be curious but very scared. I know I'd start to get that, heart-palpitating, visceral moment.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm in a situation that could turn dangerous, which I've also found on a couple of times on being on paranormal investigations when certain things have started to happen. The old heart has started to race a bit when I've started to see and feel things. And there have been some very interesting experiences I've had on ghost hunts over the years. And yeah, that's one of the things I've found has been the heart rate has picked up for no conceivable reason. But yeah, I would go as long as what I could within the experience to find out as much as what I could, and hopefully have the point where I can just then hit the accelerator and drive away, and just drive and get away as Phoebe did in Lonely Road, where she did the bolt towards the car and then got the hell out of there.
She was smart. I would have done the same thing too, man. But, I was hoping, Phoebe was going to do some little martial arts or something, just do like a roundhouse kick on one of them.
Which, actually, let me tell you, Gianna could, because she actually holds 2 black belts.
She holds 2 black belts. No kidding.
She holds 2 black belts. She's actually very good with the nunchucks. She's actually quite experienced with that. She can do all sorts of stuff with that. She's an incredible woman. She truly is. If there's someone that I could say could be a real kick butt kind of action star and do her own stuff, it's Gianna.
Oh,
yeah, no, she's pretty good with it. Rides motorbikes. These days she's got a farm property and feeds animals, so she's kind to the animals. But then if anyone's coming out to mess with her animals, she can mess with them back.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, she would be fun. I would so pick her brain if I interviewed her. She wouldn't even know what she was getting into. She'd be like this. She'd be like, Are we talking about Lonely Road, or are you talking about You Want to See Me as an Action Star? But yeah. Another question. So does Australia have an urban legend? I mean, we in the United States we have tons of urban legends. Do you have like a real big urban legend here in Australia?
Apart from the Yowies, which is basically our version of Bigfoot,
Okay.
And Sasquatch, probably the most famous urban legend that we have is the story of Fisher's ghost, which goes back into some of the earlier years of European settlement of this country, and talking about this fellow who had disappeared. He was a local landowner, as it were, and it wasn't until weeks later that people started seeing that this fellow Fisher appearing around the town. They didn't know why they were seeing him, but he'd just be seen, and then he was seen with a local policeman just pointing out past where a bridge was, constantly seen, pointing out there. And that's when they eventually found his body, realised he'd been murdered, and found the person who murdered him. And that's one of our urban legends, and people still say that out in the Campbelltown area where it happened, you can still see Fisher's ghost every once in a while pointing out towards where his body was found. So yeah, we certainly have that part itself. There's a few areas around, that have their local lore in the areas. There's of course many a time where we have local lore of the child trying to find their way home. I think every town has that of the ghost who's trying to find their way home, wants to get a lift home, and the story of they'll give them a lift home, they'll pull up to the house, and the person won't be there in the car anymore, and walked up to the front door and say, hey, look, this person is, I've just given him a lift home, and the whole, why are you doing this to us? Why are you doing this to us? Because our child died over a year ago. Why are you people still doing this? So we certainly have plenty of those. Plenty of places that are haunted. I understand we're not quite as haunted as what Ohio is. I believe Ohio is regarded as one of the most haunted states in America.
Oh, it is. It very is in Ohio, because I grew up in California, but I live in the Midwest in Ohio. Ohio has a lot of haunted territories. We've got like Dogmen. We're real close to Kentucky, so we got like Bigfoot. Over in Oxford, Ohio, where Miami University is at, that whole campus and that whole area is haunted. There's a lot of paranormal sightings. There's a country road on the side. If you like drive in the middle of the night, stop your car, hit your headlights like 3 times, you'll see a ghostly motorcycle rider. The front light of a motorcycle.
Yes. Yes.
Comes like right towards you, and then it just disappears.
I've actually read about that particular local legend as well. There are so many sites that I'd love to see in Ohio itself, from a person who's fascinated with the paranormal, who really wants to investigate further into it. It's I've spoken a couple of times to Zoe, who's the festival director of Horrorhound.
Yeah. And
she's said to me a number of times, okay, Darren, you've got to come over and see these places. And
Darren, you definitely got to, Darren, and I'll definitely go with you too. I'll tell you one place I'll take you. It's real haunted. A lot of ghost hunters have been there. A lot of famous and regular ghost hunters. I've been there and even picked up stuff. It's the famous Bobby Mackey's Country Bar in Kentucky. It used to be something, and when I was there, the areas where I picked up the most paranormal readings with my EMF and the ghost box was down in the basement, because we picked up like voices of kids, and there's like these dressing rooms back in the day, and there's this actress, who died there. And if you go into her room, you can smell like rose perfume.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and
was,
so
was that the one that did Bobby write the song about her?
Yeah, he did. I've interviewed Bobby. Bobby's a skeptic.
Yeah.
He really doesn't believe all that. He just says, "Nah, I don't believe it." But this is my bar, and I do my thing, but I don't pay attention. Which he doesn't. He's a skeptic. He doesn't believe in ghosts. He doesn't think it's haunted. But I think, the well part is, I think it's kind of like a portal from hell where, all the entities and ghosts come from. And then if you go up to the caretaker's apartment above the bar, you pick up a lot of readings, and it's freaky. And then when we walked around the bar, I picked up someone from a ghost box. It was like back by the pool tables, and it was some kind of like older man, and that just freaked the crap out of me. If you really want to get scared, investigate, is Bobby Mackey's. And I have a friend who drives a truck for 7-Up, delivers 7-Up, and every time he will deliver the Coke products, every time he goes downstairs in that basement, he always has that weird feeling, and he thinks someone's watching him, and he hates it going down there.
Yeah. And I also believe in Ohio you have one of the most haunted old prisons as well, and
Mansfield.
Also, Mansfield. Yeah. Which was that also where they used for the Shawshank Redemption?
Yes. That's where they filmed the Shawshank Redemption. And if you go down there, you can take a day tour, or you can stay overnight where they give you equipment. You can investigate. But they also have a Shawshank tour where you can take a tour around the prison and there's certain areas outside the prison where they filmed the film. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then another one is in Kentucky has a lot of haunted stuff too. And where I'm at, Ohio, we're real close to Kentucky. There's this place I went to. It was called Jailhouse Pizza. Half the pizza building was built into this 1700s hanging prison jail, and the other half is a prison. So when you go in, you can sit on the old prison side, sit and eat in the jail cells. And when I got there, man, I had an uneasy feeling in that part, because we didn't eat in the regular building. We wanted to eat in the haunted part. So when we left, because every time I do an investigation, you should always tell them to stay. They can't follow you. But I wasn't really thinking, and I didn't do that. So when I left, I started feeling sick, and my head was burning up and everything. I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was sick, but I was like, something. I got attachment, and I felt it. It didn't stay with me that long, thank God. It only stayed with me for like a few days, and then after that, I've never dealt with it. It's like gone.
Yeah. We filmed a couple of years back now. It was a film that I co-wrote called Ravenswood, which I believe actually played. I've been the last or the one before that at Horrorhound, the feature film, and we shot that at we had 10 days at a place here in Australia, in Sydney, called Callan Park.
Okay.
Which has been at various stages different. It was at one stage a proper hospital, then it was used as a psychiatric hospital, then it was used as a drug and alcohol facility. It's closed now from that side of things, and they've used it for various filming purposes. And one half of it actually still houses the Writers' Centre here in Australia for screenwriters, which I'm not sure what that says about us as screenwriters, that we have to be in a haunted location. But anyway, we shot 12 days of our shoot at Callan Park. Within a couple of days, we had to get portaloos brought in because people didn't want to use the toilet facilities that were there, because there was a number of members of our cast and crew kept on seeing figures sort of darting around behind them, and would sometimes see something peeking around.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a pervy member of crew. I can say that. One of the incidences where one of our members of crew was using the facilities, as it were, and was finding that a couple of the doors were slamming.
Okay.
And they were like, you know what? No, I don't want to go to the toilet in here anymore. I was like, okay, so we had to bring in portaloos. I personally had a couple of occasions where batteries would die. We actually had our main camera went missing for all of 20 minutes at one stage.
Wow.
We put it down. Yeah. We put it down on a table, came back from having something to eat, came back in, and it was gone. And we're sitting there going, okay, where's our camera gone? And we went looking for it for ages and ages, came back as 20 minutes later, and there it was, exactly where we'd left it.
That's creepy.
We had absolutely no idea as to how that had happened, but of course we were sitting there crapping ourselves going, okay, that's like $30,000 worth of camera. Okay. I had something which wanted to consistently tell me how it had died. I often feel this sharp shooting pain all the way down here.
Uh-huh. All the way down your face and jaw.
Yeah. And I heard it whisper saying, that's how I died. That's how I died. And it was certainly one heck of a time. And as I said to all the cast and crew when we'd leave set every day, I was like, I can do a dusting for you. I can do a dusting ritual, or I can actually, do a smudging for you, because I brought some sage with me as well onto location. So I said, I can do a dusting for you, so you can leave with that. I can do a smudging, a dusting, but I also said, I recommend before you hop in your cars, verbally saying, you do not have the right to come home with me. So bring your best work to set, leave with your best work from set, but not anything else. Don't take anything else with you.
That is so funny. I like that. So, where can everybody find you on social media, see what your next projects are going to be, and then, eventually, Vinegar House?
Oh, yeah. Well, if they can find me on Instagram, firstly and most importantly, Lonely Hill Films is my Instagram handle. For what I'm doing projects-wise, and that's the best place to find me, to discover what we're up to, what we've got plans, anything that's potentially happening along the way. Little announcements of we've just won this particular award here, we've won that particular award there. That's the best place to find me is on Instagram for Lonely Hill Films.
That's pretty good. Thank you so much for coming on and having a fun conversation with me.
More than welcome. Mate, I'm happy to come back anytime and have a chat about anything at all. Really, I'm all for a chat.
I'll definitely have you on. We can talk about some paranormal stories too, and then like in the near, that would be so fun. I want to hear some of your paranormal hunt stories. Everybody, thank you for listening to Horror Pop After Midnight. Like my page on Facebook, Horror Pop After Midnight Podcast, and also on Instagram, Horror Pop After Midnight Podcast. And if you're Twitter, it's Pop After. And please subscribe and like to my YouTube channel, Horror Pop After Midnight Podcast. And if you want to listen to this episode and recent episodes, check out Horror Pop After Midnight on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all those great podcast platforms out there. And everybody have a good